Good morning, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena following Purdue's 73-69 win over Wisconsin. I apologize for the commotion in the background here. Wisconsin's apparently still here. I don't know why they're still here. I hope everything's okay. They're horsing around on the Mackey Arena floor currently, so you'll hear some commotion in the back. I think they ought to get somewhere to stay tonight. Go find a room somewhere. You know where they should go? The Purdue Union Club Hotel. That was the greatest segue in the history of our rap videos. In all seriousness, thank you to our friends at the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your partnership here. The newly reinvented Purdue Union Club Hotel, it's pretty awesome. Go check it out. Wisconsin should go check it out right now. Wisconsin appears to be leaving now. They lost 73-69 in a really, really hard-fought game, kind of the consummate Big Ten game. Lots of fouls, lots of free throws, lots of offensive rebounds, lots of tense moments. My perception of this game varied widely over the course of a few hours. I thought Purdue was going to roll because I think Purdue is better than Wisconsin. I think there are matchup issues there where Purdue is bigger and more physical than Wisconsin. They're more athletic than Wisconsin. What they are not is as old as Wisconsin. And therein lies the challenge. And that was the reason why during the game I thought Purdue was going to lose, because I just got a weird feeling about it. The way things were going, the way Wisconsin kept answering everything Purdue did. Just didn't get a great feeling from Purdue's perspective there during the game, but obviously they were able to pull it out. Another real sign of progress for this team. I think Wisconsin is a really unique challenge for this team. Obviously everyone in the Big Ten is hard to play. Everyone in the Big Ten is good. But I think Wisconsin's a little bit different. I think they're so old, they're so experienced, and their style of play can be such a challenge for teams that are young and eager. And I mean that in the sense that they slow it down, they try to play a low possessions game, and if you play into their hands, you might have a long night. Throw in all the cheap stuff they pull, all the WWE stuff that they sometimes get away with, sometimes don't, and it can be a mental challenge on top of a basketball challenge. And I think all of those challenges, came to light tonight. Purdue struggled with some of them, but Purdue overcame all of them. It was a really unique game in the sense that you didn't expect Purdue to have to be trading baskets with Wisconsin, of all teams. You could have seen this game going like 38-36, something like that. Instead, it ends up 73-69, but just kind of a pinball game back and forth there in the second half. Teams trading baskets. But that was Purdue's problem, really. Credit Wisconsin for its effort and all that stuff, but Purdue got the stops it needed for the most part. It just couldn't flush out possessions. It couldn't cap possessions with rebounds, and it couldn't flush out the possessions by making Wisconsin actually operate offense. Twice, I think, Wisconsin got fouled on rebounds at the other end of the floor, and when they were in the double bonus, got 2 free throws out of it. A couple little touch fouls put them to the line. The points that they got off the foul line, they weren't even earning, and that's, I guess, in part a credit to Wisconsin, but more so an issue for Purdue. Assessing Purdue's defense in this game is going to be a complicated topic because they did a hell of a job shutting down Demetric Trice. That's a big deal, and that was the next thing I was going to talk about. But a lot of the stuff they gave up wasn't on the defense. I mean, defensive rebounding is part of defense, but there was your issue. I know at one point Wisconsin scored 5 straight points just off offensive rebounds. Just a deal where had Purdue just turned the ball over a few fewer times in the first half, gotten a few more defensive rebounds in the second half, Purdue wins this game, much more comfortably than it did. But I think that that's not to take away from the caliber of the win. I think for Purdue to out-tough Wisconsin the way Purdue out-toughed Wisconsin was a really big deal. I think it's really significant here that Purdue is able to win games like this and win games like the last two the way they won games like the last two without having to rely on Travion Williams to get you 20 points, 20, 23, whatever points. And why I chose 23 there, I have no idea. I was going to say 20 to 25, and then I'm like, you know what, 25 sounds like a bit much. So I didn't say 25. I went with the totally random 20 to 23 points. Please disregard that. It is 1:19 in the morning. But Purdue, 6 weeks ago, if you didn't get 20 from Travion Williams, I don't think you were winning a whole lot of games. Now, I know Penn State and Nebraska are what they are, but you won those games well. You won those games decidedly, and those teams have been pains for people. Look what Nebraska just did to Rutgers. This was a really hard-fought win over a good team here. You do it with Travion Williams. What do you have? He had 9 points. And it was Zach Edey who carried you. That's the significant part of what's going on for this team. It can legitimately be somebody every different night. Jaden Ivey's carried them at times. Zach Edey's carried them at times. It's just this team is becoming so well-rounded and so less centrally reliant on one player in Travion Williams, and that's a really positive development. Eric Hunter's done a good job offensively lately. He's not going to be a leading player anytime soon, but Aaron Wheeler's playing out of his mind. He's playing the best basketball, some of the best basketball of his career. Sasha Stefanovic carried you in the last game at Penn State, although you didn't really have to be carried by any one individual there. You won so decidedly. So what I'm saying is Purdue's developing into a pretty good team. You've probably noticed that by now. You don't win 12 Big Ten games this year without being a pretty good team, but Purdue's got a lot going for it here, as I've said in every one of these videos for weeks now. Purdue is sort of built for slugfests in the post, but I don't know necessarily if that's going to be their MO. But it sure was tonight. As I mentioned before, Wisconsin's a little bit of a different deal. They're a little bit shady sometimes in how they do things. This is a really physical team, but I thought, I shouldn't say Wisconsin's a really physical team. They're not as physical a team, but they're still physical. They're kind of the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. Purdue does have a physical advantage around the basket, and that needed to be a big deal tonight, the way it needed to be a big deal twice against Minnesota for the same reason, and obviously Purdue leveraged that to its fullest because Zach Edey was the best player in this game. So credit to Purdue for being the physical aggressor. Credit to Zach Edey for how far he's come as a player. I mean, watch this game. He's catching the ball. He's keeping it high. He's going right up, leaning into his defender, displacing his defender, scoring over him. This was the antithesis of what he was when he struggled early in the season, because he'd take his time, he'd give the defense a chance to respond. Now he plays with authority. He plays with real authority, real decisiveness, and you saw it to its fullest extent tonight. And that's the singular reason why Purdue won this game. They were 2 points better than Wisconsin in each half. First half, the way they ended the first half was obviously less than ideal. But it was Zach Edey who carried them in the second half. Just a guy who's going to be a really freaking good player. A guy who's going to play a very long time, play basketball for a very long time. Go watch an NBA game sometimes and look at the giant that most every team has sitting at the end of its bench that doesn't play very often, but they just have him there in case they need him. There are guys in the NBA right now. I'm thinking of the guy on the Mavericks. I can't remember his name. I wouldn't be able to pronounce it either, probably. But Zach Edey's going to be better than him in time. I can tell you that with some measure of certainty. And while the NBA is not necessarily built around 7'4" guys who plod up and down the floor, play in the half court more than anything, I do know there is a market in the NBA for that player. And a lot of teams like to have one on their roster. That's what they told Isaac Haas. It hasn't gotten him on a roster yet, but it's gotten his foot in the door. I don't know why I'm talking about Zach Edey playing in the NBA already, but just this getting a little directionless here. Big win for Purdue. You're one win now away from securing the 4 seed. You're one win away from winning 13 Big Ten games. In this Big Ten this year with this many freshmen, 13 is equal to 14, because if you don't get that Nebraska game, and hey, funny story, when Wisconsin came out here, I could have swore it was Nebraska, because there was a guy who looked like Fred Hoiberg and there was a guy who looked like their SID sitting on the bench, and only in 2020 could you be sitting in Mackey Arena at 1:30 in the morning or 1:10 in the morning, see a team come in and think it's a team that's coming into play the next day or something like that, unbeknownst to us. Anyway, it turned out to be Wisconsin, as I already told you. But look, Purdue's 1 win away from 13 Big Ten wins, the 4 seed in the best conference in America, the most difficult conference in America, playing all these freshmen, and 13 equals 14, because if you don't get that Nebraska home game, which right now it doesn't look like you are, the most winnable game on your whole schedule you lost out on, and you still had the sort of success you had from a win total perspective. Just a really remarkable season for Purdue thus far. Story's not written yet. Obviously, we'll see what they do the rest of this month. Obviously, this is a big game coming up against Indiana to clinch the 4 seed, to continue the winning streak against Indiana. Obviously, it's very important to a lot of people. It will be the strangest senior day ever. I guess this is a good year to, not have any seniors on your team, because there's not going to be anybody here for senior day. I feel bad for the trainers and the managers who aren't going to get their senior day, but I guess it does sort of work out in terms of it's not like Robbie Hummel or Chris Kramer or Etwan Moore, P.J. Thompson, anybody like that who the crowd, loves, is going to be leaving. That sort of situation is not getting lost here. So it'll be the Purdue-IU game in front of no fans, which will be the most surreal thing I think I've seen ever. I've already seen it once in Bloomington, and it was the weirdest thing I've seen this year. And now with it happening at Mackey Arena, which I'm much more accustomed to being in, I think it'll be even stranger. So I will talk to you again after that game. To our loyal rap video viewer, Larry Clisby. God bless you, man. I can't believe you watch these things every night. We miss you, buddy. So that's what I got for goldenblack.com. This is Brian Neubert from Purdue's 73-69 win over Wisconsin. Thank you to the Premium Club Hotel for your support, and we'll talk to you again this weekend after Purdue plays Indiana. Thanks, everybody.